What would drive a 20-year-old to take on the most powerful empire on Earth? In 334 BC, Alexander of Macedonia crossed into Asia with an army of 40,000 men. His target was the Persian Empire, a vast superpower stretching from modern Turkey to India. Within just a decade, Alexander would win every battle he fought, create one of the largest empires in history, and earn the title that still echoes through time, Alexander the Great. To understand his rise, you need to look at the world he was born into. Ancient Greece was a land of rugged mountains and fiercely independent city-states. Athens was famous for its democracy, philosophy, and naval power. Sparta, by contrast, lived for war. Its soldiers trained from childhood to fight without fear. These rivals united only when Persia tried to conquer Greece. In 480 BC, at Thermopylae, 300 Spartans and their allies held off the Persian army for 3 days before being overwhelmed. Later, at Salamis and Plataea, the Greeks finally drove the Persians back. Those victories gave Greece a golden age of art, philosophy, and science. But rivalries between Athens, Sparta, and their allies led to decades of destructive wars. The city-states were left weakened and divided, paving the way for a rising power to the north, Macedonia. For centuries, Greeks had dismissed Macedonia as a backwater. But under King Philip II, it became a military powerhouse. Philip's innovation was the sarissa, an 18-foot spear wielded by tightly drilled infantry called the phalanx. This formation created a moving wall of spear tips that few enemies could withstand. In 338 BC, Philip crushed the combined forces of Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea. With most of Greece under his control, he planned a great campaign against Persia. But before it began, Philip was assassinated, leaving his 20-year-old son Alexander as king. Alexander had been tutored by Aristotle and trained in battle from a young age. The moment he took the throne, he proved ruthless and decisive. He crushed rebellions in Greece and leveled the city of Thebes, making an example of it for anyone who dared defy him. With Greece secure, he turned to his father's unfinished dream, the conquest of Persia. In 334 BC, Alexander marched across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. His army was well-balanced, the solid wall of the Macedonian phalanx, the fast and deadly skirmishers, and his shock troops, the companion cavalry, which he personally led into battle. The Persians, advised by the Greek general Memnon of Rhodes, had the chance to starve Alexander's army by burning their own lands. But instead, they chose to face him at the river Granicus. Alexander led a daring assault across the river, nearly losing his life when 2 Persian nobles attacked him. He survived only because a companion, Clytus the Black, cut down his attacker. The Persians were routed, and Asia Minor lay open to him. The Persian king, Darius III, finally took the field in person in 333 BC. At Issus, he outnumbered Alexander 2-1. His army may have been 100,000 strong, with elite cavalry, Greek mercenaries, and his household guard, the Immortals. But the battlefield was narrow, trapped between mountains and sea. That stripped Darius of his advantage in numbers. Alexander led a furious charge at the Persian center. Darius fled the field, leaving behind his mother, wife, and children, who were treated with respect by Alexander. The victory cemented Alexander's reputation as fearless and unstoppable. Alexander pushed south to cut off Persian naval power. He besieged the island fortress of Tyre for 7 months, building a massive causeway to breach its walls. When the city fell, most of its people were killed or enslaved. Gaza, too, was taken after a brutal siege. In Egypt, Alexander was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. He was crowned pharaoh, founded the city of Alexandria, and even visited the oracle of Siwa, where he was hailed as the son of a god. By 331 BC, Alexander was ready for the showdown with Darius. The Persian king assembled a massive army, possibly twice the size of Alexander's, and cleared the ground at Gaugamela for his war chariots. Alexander, outnumbered but tactically brilliant, lured the Persians into weakening their center. Then, with his companion cavalry, he charged directly at Darius. Once again, the great king fled. The Persian army collapsed. Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis all fell to Alexander. At Persepolis, he ordered the city burned, claiming it was revenge for Persia's earlier burning of Athens. By now, Alexander ruled the Persian Empire. But conquest only fed Alexander's ambition. He pushed east to Bactria and Sogdia, in modern Afghanistan and Central Asia, facing tough resistance and guerrilla warfare. Here he married Roxana, a local noblewoman, to secure his rule. By 327 BC, he crossed into India. At the Battle of the Hydaspes, he faced King Porus and his war elephants. It was a brutal fight, but Alexander won and, impressed by Porus's courage, allowed him to keep his throne. When Alexander wanted to march further into India, his exhausted troops finally mutinied at the river Hyphasis. They had been campaigning for 8 years, thousands of miles from home. Reluctantly, Alexander turned back. Alexander led part of his army by sea and part through the harsh Gedrosian desert. Thousands died of thirst and hunger. Back in Persia, he tried to unite Macedonians and Persians by arranging mass marriages and adopting Persian customs, which angered many of his men. In 324 BC, his closest friend Hephaestion died, devastating Alexander. A year later in Babylon, as he planned his next campaign to Arabia, he fell ill with a sudden fever and died. He was only 32. Alexander never lost a battle. In just a decade, he created an empire stretching from Greece to India, but he left no clear heir. After his death, his generals tore the empire apart in decades of wars. His body, placed in a golden sarcophagus, vanished from history. Its location still a mystery today. Yet Alexander's legacy endured. His conquests spread Greek language and culture across the known world, mixing with local traditions in what became the Hellenistic Age. Art, science, and philosophy flourished in this new cultural blend. Alexander the Great remains one of history's most extraordinary figures. In only 12 years, he changed the course of civilizations forever.